The underestimated vessel. The CSS Trojan Horse drifted silently through the inky void of space, its unremarkable gray hull blending seamlessly with the star-speckled backdrop. To the untrained eye, or even to the most sophisticated alien sensors, it appeared to be nothing more than an outdated cargo freighter, perhaps on its last legs before being decommissioned. This was precisely the impression Captain Sarah Chen wanted to give. As she stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the myriad of holographic displays surrounding her, Chen couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and anticipation. The Trojan Horse was humanity's greatest achievement, and quite possibly its last hope. "Status report," Chen commanded, her voice calm but authoritative. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, her second-in-command, responded promptly. "All systems nominal, Captain. Our stealth systems are functioning at 100% efficiency. As far as the Sixth Confederation is concerned, we're just another piece of space junk." Chen nodded, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Excellent. And our special capabilities?" Patel's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Primed and ready, ma'am. They have no idea what's coming." The bridge crew, a diverse mix of Earth's finest, worked diligently at their stations. Each of them knew the weight of their mission, the fate of humanity resting squarely on their shoulders. Yet there was an air of quiet confidence permeating the ship. As the Trojan Horse cruised deeper into Sixth territory, Chen's mind wandered back to the events that had led them to this point. The Sixth Confederation, a coalition of technologically advanced alien races, had stumbled upon Earth just 5 years ago. Initial contact had been peaceful, even promising. The Zixthar, with their towering iridescent bodies and multiple limbs, had seemed almost godlike to humanity. But it hadn't taken long for their true nature to reveal itself. The Zixthar saw humans as primitive, barely more than animals. They began to exploit Earth's resources, treating the planet as nothing more than a convenient pit stop in their grand interstellar empire. Diplomacy had failed. Military resistance had been crushed. The Zixthar's energy weapons and impenetrable shields had made short work of Earth's most advanced warships. Humanity seemed doomed to become just another subjugated species in the vast Zixthar Confederation. But humans, as they had done countless times throughout their history, refused to go quietly into the night. In secret laboratories buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, the brightest minds worked tirelessly on Project Trojan Horse. They poured every ounce of human ingenuity, every scrap of reverse-engineered alien tech, into this one vessel. From the outside, the Trojan Horse looked like it could barely make it out of Earth's atmosphere. Its hull was pockmarked with what appeared to be micrometeor impacts. Patches of rust-like discoloration marred its surface. To any observer, it was a ship on its last legs. But appearances, as the saying went, could be deceiving. "Captain," the voice of Ensign Maria Rodriguez broke through Chen's reverie. "We're picking up a Zixthar patrol vessel on long-range sensors. They're altering course to intercept." Chen straightened, her eyes narrowing. This was it, the first test of their deception. "Time to intercept." "Approximately 15 minutes, Captain," Rodriguez replied. "All right, people," Chen addressed her crew. "This is what we've trained for. Remember your roles. We're just a simple cargo hauler, lost and confused. Let's give them a show they'll never forget." As the minutes ticked by, tension mounted on the bridge. The Zixthar vessel grew larger on their view screen, its sleek, predatory design a stark contrast to the Trojan Horse's dilapidated appearance. A harsh, grating voice crackled over the ship's speakers. "Unidentified human vessel. This is the Zixthar patrol ship Nebula Claw. You have entered restricted space. Prepare to be boarded and your crew detained." Chen nodded to her communications officer, who opened a channel. Putting on her best panicked voice, Chen responded, "Zixthar vessel, this is Captain Chen of the Earth cargo ship Trojan Horse. We've had a malfunction in our navigation systems. We meant no intrusion. Please, we're just trying to get home." There was a pause, then the Zixthar voice returned, dripping with disdain. Typical human incompetence. Your ship looks like it belongs in a scrapyard. We should do you a favor and blast you out of the sky. Chen gritted her teeth, forcing herself to maintain the charade. Please, we have a full cargo hold. Surely we can come to some arrangement. Another pause. Chen could almost hear the greedy thoughts turning in the Zixthar commander's mind. Very well, the alien finally responded. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction. As the communication cut off, Chen allowed herself a small, fierce grin. Hook, line, and sinker, she murmured. The crew watched as the Zixthar ship drew closer, its docking tube extending towards them. Little did the aliens know, they were about to board the most advanced warship humanity had ever created. The Trojan horse was about to live up to its name. Prepare for boarding, Chen ordered. And may God have mercy on them, because we sure as hell won't. As the Zixthar boarding party prepared to enter the Trojan horse, humanity's greatest deception was about to be unveiled. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the true battle was about to begin. Rising tensions. The Zixthar boarding party, a group of towering, iridescent beings, moved through the airlock with an air of arrogant confidence. Their multiple limbs carried an array of energy weapons, poised to subdue any resistance from the primitive humans. As they entered the main corridor of the Trojan horse, they were met with a sight that confirmed their preconceptions. The interior of the ship looked as decrepit as its exterior. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows on walls covered in peeling paint and exposed wiring. The air was thick with the scent of oil and ozone. To the Zixthar, it was further proof of humanity's technological inferiority. Captain Chen stood at the far end of the corridor, flanked by a few crew members who looked appropriately terrified. She had traded her crisp uniform for oil-stained coveralls, completing the image of a desperate cargo crew. The leader of the Zixthar party, a being nearly 9 feet tall with shimmering blue skin, stepped forward. Its voice, translated through an advanced device, filled the corridor. Captain Chen, I presume. I am Zexlor, commander of the Nebula Claw. Your vessel is now under Zixthar control. Chen nodded meekly, her eyes downcast. We understand, Commander. We'll cooperate fully. Please, we just want to return home. Zexlor's multiple eyes blinked in what might have been amusement. Home. You mean that pitiful blue marble you call Earth. Be grateful, human. Your kind is about to witness the dawn of a new era, one where you serve a greater purpose under Zixthar guidance. As Zexlor spoke, its subordinates began to fan out, their sensors scanning the ship's interior. Chen watched them carefully from the corner of her eye, noting their movements, their technology. Every piece of information could be crucial. Now, Zexlor continued, its tone becoming more businesslike. You mentioned a cargo hold. Show us what you're carrying, and perhaps we can come to an arrangement. Chen hesitated, playing her part perfectly. Of course, Commander. This way, please. As they moved deeper into the ship, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the events that had led to this moment. The Zixthar's arrival had initially been hailed as the dawn of a new age for humanity. Their advanced technology had seemed like the key to solving Earth's most pressing problems: climate change, disease, energy crisis. But it soon became clear that the Zixthar had no intention of being humanity's saviors. They saw Earth as nothing more than a resource to be exploited, and humans as a primitive species to be subjugated or eliminated. The first signs of trouble came when Zixthar mining operations began to appear in protected nature reserves. When governments protested, they were met with patronizing lectures about the greater good of the galaxy. When they tried to enforce their laws, they found their military technology woefully inadequate against Zixthar defenses. Things escalated quickly from there. Resistance movements sprang up around the globe, only to be brutally suppressed. Major cities were held hostage, their populations threatened with orbital bombardment if they didn't comply with Zixthar demands. In less than a year, Earth had effectively become a colony of the Zixthar Confederation. But humans, true to their nature, refused to accept defeat. While open rebellion was futile, a secret plan was set in motion. The best and brightest minds from around the world were gathered in hidden facilities, tasked with creating a weapon that could turn the tide. The result of their efforts was the ship Chen now commanded, the Trojan Horse. It was humanity's last, best hope for freedom. As the group approached the cargo hold, Zexalar's impatience was palpable. "Enough dawdling, human. Show us what you're hiding." Chen nodded, moving to a control panel by the massive doors of the cargo hold. She input a complex series of commands, far more than would be necessary for a simple cargo ship. Zexalar noticed this, its eyes narrowing suspiciously. "What trickery is this?" the alien commander demanded. "No trickery, Commander," Chen replied, her demeanor suddenly changing. Gone was the meek, frightened captain. In her place stood a woman of steel, her eyes blazing with determination. "Just a little surprise for our uninvited guests." The cargo bay doors slid open with a hiss, revealing not crates of goods, but row upon row of sleek, menacing weapon systems. Plasma cannons, graviton disruptors, quantum torpedoes, an arsenal that would have been impossible for humanity to create just a few years ago. Zexalar stumbled back, its iridescent skin paling. "Impossible. You primitives couldn't possibly." "Oh, we could," Chen said, her voice cold. "And we did. You should have finished the job when you had the chance, Zexalar. Because now it's our turn." With lightning speed, Chen and her crew sprang into action. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing more human soldiers armed with weapons reverse-engineered from Zixthar technology. In seconds, the boarding party found themselves surrounded and outgunned. Zexalar, its arrogance shattered, raised its arms in surrender. How did you manage this?" Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "You gave us the tools of our own liberation, Commander. Every piece of tech you flaunted, every scrap of data you carelessly left behind. We studied it all. We learned. We adapted. And now, we're going to take back what's ours." As the Zixthar boarding party was secured, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Lieutenant Commander Patel's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the Nebula Claude is powering up its weapons. They're preparing to fire." Chen's eyes hardened. "Then it's time to show them what this old rust bucket can really do. All hands, battle stations, initiate Trojan protocol." Throughout the ship, hidden systems hummed to life. The dull gray hull began to shimmer and change, revealing a sleek, advanced warship beneath the facade. Weapon ports opened, energy shields flickered into existence, and engines that could outrun light itself roared to life. As the Zixthar ship outside prepared to fire, it found itself facing not a dilapidated cargo hauler, but the most advanced warship ever created by human hands. The Trojan Horse was about to live up to its name, and the battle for Earth's freedom was about to begin in earnest. Captain Chen took her place on the bridge, her crew ready and eager for the fight ahead. "Let's show these aliens what happens when you underestimate humanity," she declared, her voice filled with fierce pride. "Fire at will." The Trojan Horse surged forward, its weapons blazing, ready to write a new chapter in human history, one of defiance, ingenuity, and ultimate victory against impossible odds. The mock battle. The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of energy as the Trojan Horse unleashed its first salvo against the Nebula Claw. Beams of coherent light, tinged with an otherworldly blue glow, lanced out from the human vessel's weapon ports. The Zixthar ship, caught off guard by the sudden transformation and attack, barely managed to raise its shields in time. On the bridge of the Trojan Horse, Captain Chen watched the battle unfold with steely determination. "Report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Lieutenant Rodriguez, her fingers dancing over her console, responded quickly. "Direct hits on their forward shields, Captain. They're holding, but we've reduced their strength by 30%. Chen nodded, a grim smile playing on her lips. Good. Let's see how they like a taste of their own medicine. Tactical, prepare quantum torpedoes. Let's give them something their sensors can't quite figure out. As the crew worked with practiced efficiency, Chen couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. These men and women, representing the best of humanity, had trained relentlessly for this moment. They had studied every scrap of Zixthar technology, every battle tactic, every weakness. Now, it was time to put that knowledge to the test. The Nebula Claw, recovering from its initial shock, began to return fire. Streams of plasma and exotic particles streaked across the starry backdrop, most missing the Trojan horse by a wide margin. The few that did connect were easily absorbed by the human ship's advanced shields. "They're still underestimating us," Commander Patel observed, his voice tinged with satisfaction. "They haven't realized yet that we're not just some lucky humans with a few stolen weapons." Chen nodded in agreement. "Then let's keep them guessing. Helm, execute maneuver Delta 7. Tactical, fire quantum torpedoes on my mark." The Trojan horse suddenly dropped its nose and rolled, presenting its dorsal side to the enemy in a move that would have been suicidal for any normal ship. But as the Nebula Claw adjusted its aim, the human vessel seemed to flicker and shift, as if it were in multiple places at once. "Quantum displacement field functioning perfectly, Captain," reported the science officer, Dr. Emily Wong. "Their targeting systems should be thoroughly confused now." "Excellent," Chen replied. "Tactical fire." A spread of torpedoes, each one containing a miniature singularity, erupted from the Trojan horse. They streaked towards the Nebula Claw, their trajectories erratic and unpredictable. The Zixthar ship, its sensors struggling to get a lock on either the torpedoes or the Trojan horse itself, fired desperately into the void. The results were spectacular. 2 of the 5 torpedoes found their mark, detonating against the Nebula Claw's shields. Space itself seemed to warp and twist around the points of impact, the gravitational forces tearing at the very fabric of the Zixthar defenses. Alarms blared on the Trojan horse's bridge as new information flooded in. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting multiple warp signatures. It looks like the Nebula Claw managed to get out a distress call. We've got incoming." Chen's expression hardened. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the true test of humanity's resolve and ingenuity. "How many?" 3 ships, Captain. 2 destroyers, and what appears to be a heavy cruiser. They'll be here in less than 5 minutes. The bridge fell silent for a moment as the implications sank in. They were about to be severely outgunned and outnumbered. But Chen saw no fear in the eyes of her crew, only determination and a fierce will to fight. "All right, people," Chen said, her voice filled with resolve. "This is no longer a skirmish. This is the battle for Earth's freedom, and we are the tip of the spear. We may be outnumbered, but we have surprise on our side, and a few more tricks up our sleeve." She turned to her tactical officer. "Arm the phase shifters. It's time to show the Zixthar what humans are truly capable of." As the crew prepared for the incoming onslaught, Chen's mind raced through their options. The Trojan horse was a technological marvel, but it had never been designed to take on an entire Zixthar battle group. They needed to be smart, to use every advantage they had. "Dr. Wong," Chen called out, "what's the status of our cloaking device?" The science officer looked up from her station, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Fully operational, Captain. But I must warn you, using it in conjunction with our weapons systems will put an enormous strain on our power grid." Chen nodded, a plan already forming in her mind. "Understood. Be ready to engage on my command. Helm, plot an intercept course with the incoming ships. We're going to hit them before they can join up with the Nebula Claw." As the Trojan horse maneuvered into position, leaving the battered Nebula Claw behind, tension on the bridge reached a fever pitch. The incoming Zixthar ships dropped out of warp, their sleek, predatory forms filling the view screen. For a moment, there was an eerie calm. The Zixthar ships, clearly expecting to find a pitched battle in progress, seemed confused by the apparent absence of combat. The Nebula Claw, still reeling from the Trojan horse's attack, was in no position to provide immediate information. Chen saw their opportunity. "Now," she commanded, "engage cloaking device and fire all forward batteries." In an instant, the Trojan horse vanished from both visual and sensor detection. Before the Zixthar could react, a barrage of weapons fire seemed to materialize out of nowhere, slamming into the lead destroyer's unshielded hull. The effect was devastating. Caught completely off guard, the Zixthar ship's hull buckled and split, secondary explosions blossoming along its length. Within seconds, it was reduced to a drifting wreck. But the element of surprise couldn't last forever. As alarms blared on the Trojan horse's bridge, warning of imminent power failure due to the strain of simultaneous cloaking and firing, the remaining Zixthar ships began to respond. Energy beams and exotic particles filled space, some passing harmlessly through the area where the Trojan horse had been, others coming dangerously close to their actual position. "Cloak failing, Captain," Dr. Wong shouted over the noise of straining systems. "We can't take much more of this." Chen's mind raced. They had bloodied the Zixthar nose, but now they were in real danger of being overwhelmed. It was time for their final gambit. "Disengage cloak," she ordered. "Tactical, prepare to deploy the phase shifters. Helm, set course directly for the Zixthar cruiser. Full speed." Her crew looked at her in shock, but years of training and trust in their captain overrode any doubts. As the Trojan horse shimmered back into visibility, it was already accelerating towards the heart of the Zixthar formation. The enemy responded immediately, all their weapons focusing on the suddenly vulnerable human ship. Energy blasts and torpedoes streaked towards the Trojan horse, its shields straining under the assault. But Chen's eyes were fixed on the rapidly approaching bulk of the Zixthar cruiser. "Steady," she murmured, more to herself than her crew. "Steady." At the last possible second, with a collision seeming inevitable, Chen gave the order. "Now, engage phase shifters." The Trojan horse's hull seemed to ripple and blur, and then, to the utter astonishment of the Zixthar, it passed directly through their cruiser as if it were no more substantial than a hologram. For a critical few seconds, the two ships occupied the same space, their matter passing through each other thanks to the phase shifters. But while the Trojan horse was designed for this impossible feat, the Zixthar cruiser was not. As the human ship emerged from the other side of the cruiser, the alien vessel began to break apart, its systems catastrophically disrupted by the phase shift. Explosions rippled along its length, and it began to list heavily to one side. The remaining Zixthar destroyer, witnessing the impossible destruction of its flagship, hesitated. In that moment of indecision, the Trojan horse struck again, its weapons finding weak points in the alien ship's defenses. As the battle reached its climax, with humanity on the verge of an impossible victory, a new threat loomed. The Trojan horse's sensors detected a massive energy buildup in the crippled Zixthar cruiser. It was clear that the alien ship was about to self-destruct, and the resulting explosion would be powerful enough to destroy everything in the vicinity, including the Trojan horse. Captain Chen and her crew faced their greatest challenge yet. They had fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious. But could they escape the final, spiteful act of their defeated enemy? The fate of the Trojan horse, and possibly the future of humanity's resistance, hung in the balance as the cruiser's reactor reached critical levels, unveiling true power. The bridge of the Trojan horse erupted into a flurry of activity as alarms blared, warning of the imminent explosion of the Zixthar cruiser. Captain Chen's mind raced, evaluating their options in split seconds. They couldn't outrun the blast, not with their systems strained from the intense battle. There was only one choice, one final card to play. "Dr. Wong." Chen's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "Initiate the quantum bubble. Divert all power to the temporal shielding." The science officer's eyes widened in realization. "Captain, the quantum bubble hasn't been tested in combat conditions. The power requirements alone cooled. "It's our only chance," Chen interrupted, her voice brooking no argument. "Do it now." As Dr. Wong's fingers flew over her console, Commander Patel turned to the captain, his voice low. "Sarah, if this doesn't work." Chen met his gaze, a fierce determination in her eyes. "Then we go down fighting, Raj. For Earth." The ship shuddered as power was redirected from every non-essential system. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, an eerie silence fell over the bridge. Then, with a sound like reality itself being torn asunder, a shimmering, iridescent field enveloped the Trojan horse. Outside, the Zixthar cruiser reached critical mass. In a blinding flash of light, it exploded, the force of the blast expanding outward at incredible speed. The remaining Zixthar destroyer, caught in the periphery of the explosion, was instantly vaporized. The shockwave hit the Trojan horse like a physical blow. The ship bucked and heaved, and for a terrifying moment, it seemed as though the quantum bubble would collapse under the strain. Sparks flew from consoles, and crew members were thrown from their stations. But the bubble held. As the initial fury of the explosion passed, the crew of the Trojan horse found themselves in a surreal environment. The quantum bubble had not just protected them from the blast, it had temporarily phased them partially out of normal spacetime. Through the view screen, they could see the aftermath of the explosion playing out in slow motion, debris floating languidly past them. "Status report," Chen demanded, pulling herself back into her chair. Lieutenant Rodriguez, nursing a cut on her forehead, responded first. "Shields at 12%, Captain. Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, but emergency force fields are holding. Weapons systems offline." Dr. Wong chimed in next, her voice filled with wonder. "The quantum bubble is stable, Captain. We're existing in a state of temporal flux. By my calculations, we're experiencing time at roughly 1/10 the normal rate." Chen allowed herself a small smile. Against all odds, they had survived. But the battle was far from over. "How long can we maintain the bubble?" "At current power levels, no more than 10 minutes our time," Dr. Wong replied, "which gives us about an hour and a half relative to the outside world." Chen nodded, her mind already formulating their next move. "That should be enough. Patel, start damage control teams on the hull breaches. Rodriguez, begin rerouting power to get our weapons back online. Dr. Wong, I need you to find a way to use this temporal differential to our advantage." As the crew set about their tasks with renewed vigor, Chen turned her attention to the tactical display. The Nebula Claw, damaged but not destroyed in the initial engagement, was limping back towards the battlefield. No doubt its crew was bewildered by the sudden destruction of their reinforcements. "They still don't know what they're dealing with," Chen mused aloud. "Let's keep it that way for as long as possible." Over the next hour, as time crawled by outside their temporal bubble, the crew of the Trojan horse worked feverishly to repair their ship and prepare for the next phase of the battle. Systems came back online one by one, and Chen felt a surge of pride as she watched her people push themselves to the limit and beyond. Finally, as their time in the bubble was nearing its end, Chen called her senior staff together. "All right, people, we've got one shot at this. When the bubble collapses, we're going to be right back in the thick of it. The Nebula Claw may be damaged, but it's had time to regroup. We need to end this quickly." She turned to Dr. Wong. "What have you got for me?" The science officer's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Something rather spectacular, Captain. We can use the collapse of the quantum bubble to create a temporal shockwave. If we time it right, we can catch the Nebula Claw in a localized time dilation field. They'll be moving in slow motion relative to us, giving us the perfect opportunity to strike." Chen finished, a predatory smile spreading across her face. "Excellent work, Doctor. Tactical, the moment we're out of the bubble, I want every operational weapon targeting their engines and weapon systems. We're going to end this here and now." As the final seconds ticked away, tension mounted on the bridge. Chen took a deep breath, steadying herself for what was to come. "On my mark," she said, her voice calm and controlled. 3, 2, 1, mark. The quantum bubble collapsed with a thunderous roar. As promised, a wave of temporal energy radiated outward from the Trojan horse. It washed over the unsuspecting Nebula Claw, and to the human crew's amazement, the alien ship seemed to freeze in space. "Now," Chen shouted, "fire everything." The Trojan horse came alive, its weapons blazing with a fury that belied its earlier damaged state. Beams of energy and swarms of missiles streaked towards the Nebula Claw. The Zixthar ship, its crew reacting with agonizing slowness, couldn't respond in time. The assault was devastating. Explosions blossomed along the Nebula Claw's hull as its shields failed under the onslaught. Weapon emplacements were reduced to twisted metal, and gaping holes were torn in its armor. As the effects of the temporal shockwave faded, the Nebula Claw was left drifting, venting atmosphere and debris into space. On the Trojan horse's bridge, a cheer went up as the tactical display confirmed what their eyes could scarcely believe. They had won. But Captain Chen knew the battle was not truly over. She opened a channel to the crippled Zixthar ship. "Nebula Claw, this is Captain Chen of the Earth ship Trojan Horse. Your vessel is disabled, and you are at our mercy. Surrender now, and we will spare the lives of your crew." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, a voice crackled over the comm system, the same arrogant Zixthar commander who had first hailed them. But now, the arrogance was gone, replaced by a mix of fear and awe. "Trojan horse, we surrender. I don't understand how you've done this, but we yield to your superior strength." Chen allowed herself a small, satisfied nod. "A wise decision, Commander. Prepare to be boarded, and I suggest you contact your superiors. Let them know that humanity is no longer the easy prey they thought we were." As she gave orders for boarding parties to secure the Nebula Claw, Chen felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. They had achieved the impossible. A single human ship had defeated a Zixthar battle group. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Trojan horse's victory would send shockwaves through the Zixthar Confederation. Humanity had revealed that it was not only capable of fighting back, but of defeating the aliens at their own game. The war for Earth's freedom was far from over, but for the first time since the Zixthar arrived, there was hope. As the adrenaline of battle began to fade, Captain Sarah Chen looked out at the star-filled expanse before her. In the distance, she could just make out the faint blue dot that was Earth. A fierce determination filled her heart. They had struck the first blow, and they would not stop until their home was free once more. The Trojan horse had lived up to its name, bringing a gift of destruction to those who had underestimated humanity. And now, as news of their victory spread, it would become a symbol of hope for billions. The tide had turned, and the true battle for the future of humanity was about to begin. Aftermath and reflection. The days following the Trojan horse's stunning victory were a whirlwind of activity. As Captain Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching her crew efficiently managing the captured Zixthar vessel, she couldn't help but marvel at how quickly things had changed. The stars outside seemed brighter somehow, as if the universe itself was acknowledging humanity's triumph. A soft chime announced the arrival of Commander Raj Patel. He stepped onto the deck, datapad in hand, his usually stoic face bearing a hint of a smile. "Captain, I have the latest reports from Earth." Chen turned, raising an eyebrow. "Let's hear it, Raj." Patel's eyes gleamed with excitement as he began to read. "News of our victory has spread like wildfire. Resistance movements across the globe have been galvanized. There are reports of uprisings in major cities, and several Zixthar outposts have already fallen to human forces." Chen nodded, a mix of pride and concern on her face. "And the Zixthar response?" "That's the most interesting part," Patel replied. "They're in disarray. Our victory here wasn't just a military defeat for them. It was a shattering of their worldview. The Zixthar Confederation Council has called for an emergency session. There are rumors of factions arguing for everything from full-scale retaliation to a complete withdrawal from Earth. Chen let out a long breath. It's a start, but we can't let our guard down. This is when we need to push our advantage. As if on cue, Dr. Emily Wong entered the observation deck, her face alight with enthusiasm. Captain, Commander, you're not going to believe this. We've finished our initial analysis of the Sixth-Star ship's database. Both officers turned to her, their attention rapt. Wong continued, her words tumbling out in excitement. It's not just weapons technology. We're talking about advancements in medicine, energy production, faster than light travel, things that could transform life on Earth. And that's not even the best part. She paused for effect, a grin spreading across her face. We found references to other species that have resisted Sixth-Star expansion. Potential allies, Captain. We're not alone in this fight. The implications of this discovery hung in the air. Chen's mind raced with the possibilities. Dr. Wong, I want you and your team to prioritize that information. Commander Patel, start working on a secure way to transmit this data back to Earth. If we can make contact with these other species, we could turn this into a real intergalactic alliance. Patel finished, his voice filled with awe. As her officers left to carry out their tasks, Shen turned back to the viewport. The captured nebula claw drifted in the distance, a testament to how quickly the tables could turn. She thought back to the beginning of this mission, to the years of oppression that had led to this moment. The Sixth-Star had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species, easy to conquer and exploit. They had seen humanity's relative technological inferiority and assumed it equated to inferiority in all things. It was an arrogance born of countless easy victories, a belief in their own superiority so ingrained that they couldn't conceive of defeat. But they had underestimated the human spirit. They hadn't accounted for humanity's resilience, its adaptability, its sheer stubborn refusal to submit. The Trojan horse was more than just an advanced warship. It was the embodiment of humanity's potential, a symbol of what could be achieved when people united against a common threat. A few hours later, Chen found herself addressing the crew in the ship's main hangar bay. Humans and captured Sixth-Star alike listened as she spoke, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. Today, we stand at a turning point in human history, she began, her eyes scanning the assembled crowd. We have proven that humanity is not just capable of surviving in this vast, often hostile universe. We are capable of thriving, of meeting any challenge head-on, and emerging victorious. She paused, letting her words sink in. But our victory today is not an end. It's a beginning. We have struck a blow for freedom, not just for humanity, but for all species who suffer under Sixth-Star oppression. And now, we have a choice to make. Chen's voice grew stronger, filled with conviction. We can use this victory as a springboard for vengeance, to inflict upon the Sixth-Star the same cruelties they showed us. Or we can use it as an opportunity to forge a new path, one of cooperation, of mutual understanding and respect. She gestured to the captured Sixth-Star, who watched her with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Our enemies of yesterday could be our allies of tomorrow. The Sixth-Star Confederation rose to power through force and intimidation. Let us show them, and the rest of the galaxy, a better way. As Chen concluded her speech, a thunderous applause filled the hangar bay. Humans cheered and embraced one another, their faces shining with hope and determination. Even some of the Sixth-Stars seemed moved, their iridescent skin shimmering with what might have been emotion. In the days and weeks that followed, the ripple effects of the Trojan horse's victory spread across the galaxy. On Earth, the human resistance grew into a full-fledged revolution. Armed with the advanced technology gleaned from the captured Sixth-Star ship, human forces began to push the invaders back. The Sixth-Star Confederation, faced with unexpectedly fierce resistance and the prospect of a wider intergalactic conflict, found itself at a crossroads. Hardliners called for a doubling down of their efforts to subjugate Earth, but others, shaken by the defeat of their supposedly invincible fleet, argued for diplomacy. As for the Trojan horse and its crew, they had no time to rest on their laurels. With their ship repaired and upgraded using Zixthar technology, they set out on a new mission. Their goal: to make contact with the other species resisting Zixthar expansion, to forge alliances and share the secret of their victory. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Trojan horse, watching as the stars streaked by at faster than light speeds. She thought about the long journey ahead, the challenges they would face, the allies they might make, and the battles yet to be fought. But most of all, she thought about the lesson that the Zixthar had learned at such a high cost, a lesson that she hoped would resonate across the galaxy. Never underestimate your opponent. Never assume that technological superiority equates to superiority of spirit, of determination, of the will to be free. As the Trojan horse ventured into the unknown, carrying with it the hopes of humanity and the seeds of a new intergalactic order, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Zixthar had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species ripe for conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that would reshape the very face of the galaxy. The human adventure was just beginning, and the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter in anticipation of what was to come.